A comedian whose only political experience consists of playing a president on television appears headed for a landslide victory in Ukraine's real-life presidential election. Exit poll results released after voting stations closed showed sitcom star Volodymyr Zelenskiy had won 73% of the vote to President Petro Poroshenko's 25%, or nearly 3 out of every 4 votes cast. The landslide victory would stand as a crushing rebuke to Mr. Poroshenko's 5 years in office and a verdict on the country's deep-seated corruption and 5-year war against Russian-backed separatists in the country's east, which has killed more than 13,000 people. Mr. Poroshenko accepted defeat, saying, "I am leaving office, but I want to firmly underline that I am not leaving politics," even before the official release of the results of the two-man runoff. Mr. Zelensky suggested his apparent victory could be a model for other former Soviet states that wanted to move forward from ossified politics. "I promise I will never let you down," he said after the release of the exit polls. Mr. Zelensky, who is 41 years old, became famous in Ukraine for his comic portrayal of a high school teacher who becomes president after a video of him denouncing corruption goes viral. In a case of life imitating television, Mr. Zelensky railed against corruption during the real campaign. He said his first order of business was to secure the release of the roughly 170 Ukrainian military members held prisoner by the separatists or the Russians. Millions unable to vote. Mr. Zelensky was criticized for vague campaign platform and never holding public office, but voters appeared to cast aside those concerns in favor of a thorough sweep of Ukraine's political leadership. Mr. Poroshenko was a billionaire candy magnate and former foreign minister before he took office in 2014 after huge street protests drove his Russia-friendly predecessor to flee the country. Although he instituted some reforms, critics said he had not done nearly enough to curb corruption. Millions of people living in the rebel-controlled East and in Russia-annexed Crimea were unable to vote, following the Russian seizure of Crimea in 2014. The incumbent campaigned on the same promise he made when he was elected in 2014, to lead the nation of 42 million into the European Union and NATO. But those goals have been elusive, one reason being a visa-free deal with the EU led to the exodus of millions of skilled workers for better living conditions elsewhere in Europe. In a jab at his politically inexperienced rival, Mr. Poroshenko warned voters that it could be funny at first, but pain may come later. AP